So my name is Kevin Mwangi, as said, from GIZ Kenya, working for the Energy Solutions for Displacement Settings project. And here we are looking at to promote market-based approaches for renewable energy project and access to electricity. So we have been working in the displacement settings and specifically in Turkana County and mostly in the Turkana West Sub-county since 2019. And we have built onto a project, and you could go on to the next slide. Okay, yeah, we are building onto a project that already started a while back, and this was a results-based financing project where we supported the development of mini-grids in 2 counties, and one of the county was Turkana County, and the developer there put up 2 mini-grids in the displacement settings, one in the settlement and one in the host community. Next slide, please. Our project is looking at 3 areas of cooperation, and one is in the policy, coordination, and capacity development. Here we are looking at promoting capacity, building the capacity of the Turkana County government and also the UNHCR in the coordination of energy activities in the humanitarian setting. We're also providing technical assistance to the UNHCR to green their infrastructure, both at the compound and also the field posts. And thirdly, the one that has brought us here is high electricity access to households, businesses, and social institutions in the settlement and also in the host town. So the main area we are working on, as we continue to the next slide, is Kalobeyei, and Kalobeyei is an integrated settlement. And here we were looking at 2 things. One, the UNHCR developed a settlement that could put together both the host and the refugee communities. We find the host opted to live a little bit further from where the refugees were living, and so that's why we have 2 mini-grids there. And so we also have these 2 populations, catchment areas. One, the settlement has a population of around 44,000, while those are refugees, and the host town already having a population of around 2,000. As we go to the next slide, please. And so what we were building on is the RBF project, and probably this then will bring to the conversation of which models would work for the development of mini-grids in the humanitarian settings. So we will see that the money was provided by the UK government through FCDO, and this grant was channeled to NDEV, and GIZ already was providing the technical assistance. We already got a fund manager, Barclays Bank, who in Kenya is currently called ABSA, and ABSA now was able to give this money to the beneficiaries, and one of them was a private developer who is currently operating the mini-grid in Kalobeyei. So 2 mini-grids were developed. One is a 60 kilowatt mini-grid that is serving approximately 500 customers, 300 being households, and 127, I think, being businesses. And then the other one is in the host town, and in the host town we have approximately 120 connections. And and this is what we are building on. So as we continue to the next slide, please. And these are the nice pictures. So these pictures take us to ancient times. So this is what was there. Relic diesel generators, and somebody who was trying to play with a distribution board. So in the end, what we saw as we were coming in is that there was need for electrification. However, it was being provided by unregulated mini-grid operators who were operating some relic diesel generators, and also they did not care at all about safety with regards to how they supply their customers. And so an opportunity for somebody to come in and provide electricity that is reliable and sustainable through renewable energy resources was there. Next slide, please. So how did we do it in the RBF that you are building on? So the incentives were capped at 50%, but because of the do no harm policy, for Kalobeyei, it was extended up to 82%. The market price or the cost reflective tariff was approximately 0.89 USD per kilowatt hour. But now with 82% subsidies, that was 30% capex incentive and 70% connection incentives. This we brought down to around 0.16 USD per kilowatt hour. So this is the current tariff that has been approved by the regulator to be used by the private operator of the mini grid. Next slide, please. So this is what we are changing from. We are changing from this diesel generator to clean and renewable energy, and we would like to say that the activities for expansion are ongoing. We have realized as the mini grid was being operated, the demand outstripped the supply, and therefore the operator has been able to get funding to increase this 60 kilowatt mini grid, and currently construction is ongoing for expansion of 544 kilowatt peak mini grid. As GIZ and as the ESDS project, we are also assisting this operator to build a distribution network, and this is also ongoing, and we also plan to connect an additional 2,500 homes, social institutions, and businesses in the settlement. Next slide, please. For the COVID-19, during the COVID-19 pandemic, there was a request by the UNHCR and also the county government of Turkana to provide supply of reliable electricity for medical services. In the end, we were able to connect 3 health institutions in the host and settlement, and also connected schools in the settlement that were also earmarked for isolation facilities. So in the end, we have had an advantage that now schools will be able to tap into digital learning and also access to reliable electricity for even extended learning hours, while also the medical facilities are able now to have reliable electricity for their activities, which include storage of vaccines, and also, as it had been mentioned, the powering of autoclaves, etc. Next slide, please. Thank you. So what are the lessons learned? Planning to manage demand is one of the things that needs to be done on the onset. As we said, as the private developer or operator continued to manage this mini grid, the demand outstripped the supply, and there was a time that now diesel generation was being used a little bit more by the operator, which also now brings the question of the cost. Up to a certain time, we can say that they started curtailing, or they also started load shedding, and some part of the evening there was no availability of electricity. So we also need to include refugee and host communities while developing these projects, because then this brings about the buy-in and reduces the conflicts. There's also the regulatory framework. I could say that we have worked really closely with the national government and the Turkana County government in developing these projects, and this also has benefited the operations of the mini-grid operator. Next slide, please. I will just highlight 2 things, and these are the last 2 points, that productive use of electricity should be stimulated for sustainability of the mini-grids. Currently, we could say, like, for example, a bank is already connected. We can see the telecom towers in the settlement are connected to this mini grid. And also there are businesses. There is welding machines. There is salons and also shops that are offering cold beverages, and which is really good. And also innovative ways of doing things. I think SNV are working on a productive, on electric pressure cookers, which we could also see as an opportunity for the mini grid, and thus reduce the stresses on biomass cooking. Innovative integration of generation plans for social institutions, and this is important because as we continue to understand, to realize is that humanitarian partners, when they go into the camps, they think, what do we require? And so they put their own solutions in place. So when a mini grid comes, they realize, oops, there are people who have already captive power, and how do we integrate this? And a good example is, currently there's a 60 kilowatt mini grid, and in the same locality, the Red Cross have a hospital that has a 50 kilowatt installation. So how do we put together these two so that all of us could use electricity, and we could also, when there is low demand from the institutions, for example, during the weekends, that this could also be used by the businesses, for example. So this needs to be looked at and also discussed, and how best we could go about this. I could already probably, as I finish, talk about that pole. As GIZ, we are also proud that we have used sustainable poles. So this is an eco pole that uses bamboo and has a plastic outer casing. And we are really proud of doing this, although a little bit expensive, because again, it promotes some sustainability, and we are supporting the mini-grid operator in also installing this. Thank you very much. I hope to hear from you.